those days, girls did not find their own husbands, especially princesses. Their marriages were arranged by their parents, and it all seemed to work out as well as any other way. But Nausicaa, 16-year-old daughter of the king and queen of Phaeacia, was hard to please and had been turning down suitors for 2 years now. Maybe it's interesting to you to note that she's 16 years old, and for 2 years she's been refusing boyfriends and future husbands. So that means at age 14, they started trying to get her married. So that's very different from our times, and in ancient Greek times that would have been, but in ancient Greek times that would have been more normal. So you might write over here, age 14, parents are looking for a husband for her. Her father, Alcinous, and her mother, Arete, were becoming impatient. There were several hot-tempered kings and princes who had made offers, for Nausicaa was very lovely, and Alcinous knew that if he kept turning them down, he might find himself fighting several wars at once. So you should note over here, if someone didn't get the opportunity to marry, they might start a war. He was a fine warrior and enjoyed leading his great fleet into battle. Still, he preferred his wars one at a time. He told the queen that Nausicaa would have to be forced to choose. I was very difficult to please too, said Arete, but I think you'll admit I married well. So she's complimenting her husband. Perhaps she too knows in her heart that if she bides her time, the gods will send a mighty man to be her husband. The king smiled. Arete always knew the right thing to say to him. So the discussion ended for that day. Nevertheless, the queen knew that her husband was right, and that the girl would have to choose. That night, Nausicaa was visited by a dream. It seemed to her that the goddess, Athene, stood over her bed, tall and gray-eyed, and spoke to her, saying, "How can you have a wedding when all your clothes are dirty? Take them to the river tomorrow and wash them." The goddess faded slowly until all that was left was the picture of her shield, a snake-haired girl. And it seemed that the snakes writhed, meaning moved around, and hissed and tried to crawl off the shield to get at the dreamer. Nausicaa awoke, moaning. But she was a brave girl and went right back to sleep and tried to dream the same dream again so that she could learn more about the wedding. But the goddess did not return. The next morning, she went to her mother and told her of the dream. "I don't understand it," she said. "What wedding?" "Yours, perhaps," said Arete, her mother. "Mine? With whom?" "The gods speak in riddles. You know that, especially when they visit us in dreams. So you must do the one clear thing she told you. Take your serving girls to the river and wash your clothes. Perhaps if you do that, the meaning will show itself." Thereupon Nausicaa told her servant girls to gather all the laundry in the castle and pile it in the mule cart. She also took food, a goatskin bottle of wine, and a golden flask of oil so that they could bathe in the river. Then they set off in the red cart, and the harness bells jingled as the mules trotted down the steep streets toward the river. It was a sparkling morning. Nausicaa felt very happy as she drove the mules. They drove past the city walls, down the hill and along a road that ran through a wood, until they came to the river. They dumped the clothes in the water and stamped on them, dancing and trampling and treading them clean. Then they dragged the clothes out and pounded them on flat stones, afterwards spreading them to dry in the hot sun. They then flung off their garments and swam in the river, scrubbing each other and anointing themselves with oil. "Well, you look clean enough to get married," cried Nausicaa. "But it's easier to wash than to wed, isn't it, girls?" The maidens giggled wildly, and Nausicaa shouted with laughter. She was so drunk with sun and water that she felt she could run up the mountain and dance all day and night. It was impossible to sit still. She seized a leather ball from the cart and flung it to one of their maids, who caught it and threw it back. Then the others joined in, and the girls frisked, or played, the word frisked means played, frisked on the riverbank, tossing the ball back and forth. Ulysses awoke from a deep sleep. He was still dazed and could barely remember how he had gotten among the reeds. He peered out, saw the girls playing, and then shrank back, for he did not wish to be seen as he was, naked and bruised. But Nausicaa threw the ball so hard that it sailed over the heads of the girls and fell near the clump of reeds where Ulysses was hiding. A girl ran to pick it up, then shrank back, screaming. "A man!" she cried. "A man, all bloody and muddy!" Ulysses reached out, plucked a spray of leaves from a fallen olive branch, and came out of the reeds. The girls saw a naked man holding a club. His shoulders were bleeding, his legs muddy, and his hair crusted with salt. They fled screaming, but Nausicaa stood where she was and waited for him. "Is this why Athena sent me here?" she thought. "Is this my husband come out of the river? Is this what I am to take after all the beautiful young men I have refused?" "Come back, you silly geese," she shouted to the girls. "Haven't you ever seen a man before?" Then she turned to Ulysses, who had fallen to his knees before her. "Speak, grimy stranger," she said. "Who are you, and what do you want?" "Do not set your dogs upon me," said Ulysses. "I did not mean to surprise you in your glade, where you were playing," is what he's saying. "What talk is this? Are you out of your head?" "Forgive me, but I know the fate of Actaeon, who came upon you in the wood. You turned him into a stag, and had your hounds tear him to pieces. Whom do you take me for?" So who is Ulysses thinking this is? Right over here in the margin, who he thinks he is seeing. "Why, you are Artemis, of course, goddess of the chase, maiden of the silver bow. I have heard poets praise your beauty, and I know you by your white arms, by your hair and eyes, and the way you run, like light over water. Sorry to disappoint you." This is Nausicaa speaking. "Sorry to disappoint you, but I am not Artemis. I am Nausicaa. My father is king of this island, and I ask again, who are you?" "An unlucky man." "Where do you come from?" "Strange places, princess. I am a sailor, hunted by a god, who sends storms against me, wrecks my ships, kills my men. I come now from Ogygia, where I have been held captive by the Titaness Calypso, who bound me with her spells. But as I was sailing away, a storm leaped out of the blue sky, smashing my boat, and I have been swimming in the sea for more than 2 days. I was dashed against the rocks of your coast, but managed to swim around it till I found this river. When I came ashore here, I had no strength to go farther, and fell where you found me. I suppose no one would look his best after spending 2 days in the sea and being beaten against rocks. You tell a good story, I'll say that for you. Why don't you bathe in the river now and try to make yourself look human again? We can give you oil for anointing, and clean garments belonging to my brother. Then you can follow me to the castle and tell your story there." "Thank you, sweet princess," said Ulysses. He took the flask of oil and went into the river and bathed and anointed himself. When he came out, he found clean garments waiting. The serving girls helped him dress and combed out his tangled hair.
Well, said Nausicaa, you look much improved. I can believe you're some kind of chieftain now. Are you married? Yes. Of course. You would have to be, at your age. I have not seen my wife for 20 years. She considers herself a widow. Has she remarried? Perhaps. I do not know. Last I heard she was being besieged, meaning surrounded and followed by suitors. Write that in the margin. Surrounded by and followed by suitors. I am besieged by suitors too, but haven't found any I like well enough to marry. As they spoke at the bank of the river, the serving girls had been piling the laundry into the mule cart. But I am thoughtless, keeping you here, said Nausicaa. You need food and rest. You must come to the castle and finish your story there. The sight of your beauty is food and drink to me, and the sound of your voice makes me forget my weariness. She laughed. Are you courting me, stranger? Courting is, are you flirting with me? You could write flirting over here for courting. I am a homeless wanderer. I cannot court a princess, but I can praise her beauty. Come along to the castle. I want to introduce you to my father and mother. They are kind to strangers, very partial to brave men, and love to hear stories. So partial means they like. They have a good opinion about kind strangers and brave men. And I want to hear more about you too. Now, that day, as it happened, King Alcinous had consulted an oracle. So he went to get advice from an oracle. Remember the oracle bones? The oracle, they would go and ask questions, not the oracle bones. That's a different culture. And ask questions. So had consulted an oracle who prophesied, who told him about the future, saying, I see danger. I see a mountain blocking your harbor, destroying your commerce. I sense the cold wrath of the god of the sea. But the earth shaker has always favored us, said the king. Who's the earth shaker? Who are they referring to? You could write that in the margin. I think that's Poseidon. He has showered blessings upon this island. Our fleets roam far, return laden. Why should he be angered now? I do not know. It is not clear. It is not clear. But I say to you, O king, beware of strangers, shipwrecks, storytellers. Believe no tale, make no loan, suffer no harm. I don't understand. Neither do I, but there is no need to understand, only to obey. Obey the oracle. The oracle departed. So the person telling this story, potential story of the future, left, leaving the king very thoughtful. Just at this time, Nausicaa was leading Ulysses into the courtyard of the castle. She bade her maids take him to the guest house. Wait till I send for you, she said. Food will be brought, and wine. She raced to her mother's chamber. Oh, mother, mother, she cried. I'm so glad I obeyed the dream and went to the river to wash our clothes. What do you think I found there? A man, hiding in the reeds, naked and wounded. I soon set him right and brought him here. Such an interesting man. Brought him here to the castle? Paraded a naked beggar through the streets for the whole town to see? My dear child, haven't you given them enough to gossip about? So think about this here for a second. Imagine if you brought home to your parents some strange person, all bloody and wounded, with nothing, brought them home to your house. Even today, that might be looked upon strangely, especially, I think, if a young girl were to bring home an older man like that in that condition, or in any condition. He's no beggar, mother. He's a sailor or a pirate or something. Such stories he tells. Listen, he landed on an island once where men eat flowers. They make them fall asleep and forget who they are. So they sleep all day and pick flowers all night and are very happy. This man's crew went ashore and ate the flowers and forgot who they were, and didn't want to go back to the ship, just sleep. But he dragged them back anyway. I'd like to try those flowers, wouldn't you?